We build it, you demolish it. The legendary Homewrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20 plus fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Over the Boards. I'm your host, Delaney Kearns. Joining me, as always, Coach Tim Healy of the Ice Pack. Coach, how have you been?
I've been great. You know, it's a whole change of season since we were last together in here.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You know, all the leaves were on the trees the last time, not even turned colors, and now we have snow on the ground.
I know.
So.
I know. It was all the way back in September. I would like to mention that Over the Boards is sponsored by Moe's. You can order online at moescatersraleigh.com or call 919-999-3999. And don't forget, if the Ice Pack score 5 goals at home, you can get free queso at the Village District Moe's. Well, we have a lot to talk about today, Coach. We're going to talk a little bit about the showcase, cup renaming, alumni game, and kind of just the projection for the rest of the season. So let's dive into it. Like I said, we haven't talked since September, and so that was right after the win at Rowan University. Between that and the ACC HL Showcase, there was a 9 home game stretch. How was that? What was that like for the team?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice not to travel for a month, obviously. But I think if you were to ask the team, they might feel like that was a little bit of a disappointing run. You know, when you're at home for 9 games, you really want to, you know, stack some wins together. And we had trouble in that stretch. I think where the first, through that Rowan game, for example, was a bit of a honeymoon period at the start of the year. A lot of new guys, a lot of good vibes. I think in that stretch at home was, you know, you might want to call that, you know, finding out who you are, figuring out the roles, figuring out who is really bought in. And then I would say that stretch really took us through the South Carolina game at Truist. But I think after that, you know, now we were able to come out of it finding out who we are. Didn't lose a ton of ground standings-wise, particularly in the ACC standings. You know, we came through it with only 1 ACC loss, so we took care of business there to set us up to win the division towards the playoffs. But, yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think myself and the team would feel that, you know, it was a little bit of an underwhelming homestand, but, you know, we've sorted it out since then.
For sure. I was wondering, do you think it gets a little stagnant sometimes just being home? Sometimes it's exciting to travel. Play somewhere else.
It is, but I don't think that was really it. I think it was, again, really trying to figure out who we are, what our identity was going to be. You know, we had some guys and injuries go out through that stretch, particularly on defense, and, you know, figuring out who's going to step up and fill those roles. And by now we've kind of sorted that out.
Yeah, that's good. So let's talk about the showcase. How was it? What was it like for the team? It was a little shorter for the team.
Yeah, it was nice. You know, with an odd number of teams in the league, not everyone needed to play 3 games. And the way our schedule broke out, we only needed to play 2 teams within the ACCHL to have 2 games against each team. So we were just a Saturday, Sunday stay and, you know, opened up against Ryder and, you know, really played well there. Came out in a first period, just real dominant fashion. And kind of wore them out. And, you know, Ryder played the night before, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. And then the next day against Maryland, you know, Maryland is a team that just gives us fits. Every game we play against them is exactly the same game.
It's like textbook work.
Oh, my God, yeah. They play hard. They play disciplined.
Yeah.
You know, credit to Joe Carter and that coaching staff up there. Tucker, Healy, Drake, you know, they do a great job against us. And they seem to know us better than ourselves at sometimes. But you know, at the end of the day, we came out with 2 league wins, which set us up, and that was important to do, and certainly a big goal of ours.
Do you think because it was just 2 games, the team felt the need to capitalize a little bit more, show themselves up a little bit, make themselves known?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know if our team necessarily thinks that way. I think for them it was really a business trip mentality of go on the road, get 4 points. And we've been pretty good on the road this year, you know. I'm trying to think, you know, road loss at George Mason and shootout loss to Liberty. Yeah, we've been pretty good on the road.
Yeah. Well, were there any standout performances? Anything else from the showcase that really stood out to you? I know, like you said, it was pretty short.
Yeah, Dylan Christie playing goal in the Maryland game, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was a tough game to go into.
Yeah.
Really tight, and we didn't take the lead until the third, and he did a great job in that game.
Yeah, and as you said, finishing out the school semester, as a student, I'm always thinking school semester-wise. The Ice Pack did, take on wins, Michigan State, Military Academy, UNCW twice, and then they took home some losses as well, George Mason, South Carolina, and then that kind of brought us into the new year.
Yeah, and that's what I would say almost that growing up stage was through the South Carolina game right before Thanksgiving break. We did have the good Michigan State win right before that in the new camo uniforms, which look great.
Yeah.
Shout out Nick Labrizzi helping to design those. But then we went through South Carolina. Played a pretty good first period. Fans were great. Second period was okay. In the third period, frankly, we didn't show up. And that, for the team, we did a lot of soul searching after that game. And I think came out the next day playing against the United States Military Academy West Point at Fort Liberty. So it was a different type of crowd.
It was.
It was a great atmosphere. It was sold out. It was loud. It was a great hockey game. Kind of a back and forth game all day.
Yeah.
Zach Herman finally, delivers in overtime for the win. And that set up I think that game, we were going through it as a team in that stretch, and so we, that showed some character and grit to win that game against a team that's ranked number 2 up in the Northeast right now, in a kind of a quasi-home game. I would say it's kind of split 50-50 in there. And certainly the most in-shape and physical team we've played. Holden Coffin and Jake Gifford got hit some of the hardest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But bounced back, and we found a way to win that game.
Of course, yeah. And that led us right into the new year, January.
Yeah, well, we had Wilmington after we
Yes.
came back. And, I was pretty proud of how we played that weekend for a couple reasons. One, we always seem to have 2 different games against them. At home, we normally, roll pretty easily. But down at Wilmington, the rink is small, the crowd is intense, and they are a really good home team.
Yeah.
And so the next night could have gone one way or the other. It's a tight game, got some power play goals in the second period in the Saturday night game, and we were able to pull away from that game and kind of get a comfortable win. Getting a comfortable win at Wilmington is rare, about as rare as a snowfall in Wilmington, actually, which they had this weekend, last night. So that really set us up going into the new year, and as I said, kind of found ourselves at that point in our game.
Yeah, and those were 2 good, like you said, wins to have under your belt.
Absolutely.
For sure. And then we started to get into the new year, and we had something really exciting on January 10th.
Well, let's back up too. We had Delaware right before that.
Yes.
So we had a pair of games against Delaware.
Yes.
And it's funny, you talk about historically games going the same way. We always go up there for 2, or they come down here for 2. One game, either the first or second game, is normally a comfortable win, and the second and the other one is normally tight. Same one again, right? Like 9-1, and the second game was 3-1. But again, played really well overall for the weekend. I think we kind of fell asleep a little bit in the second game. It was a pretty late start in the third period, but I thought we played 5 really good periods of hockey against Delaware, and again 4 points, 4 ACCHL points. And that helped us clinch the division. And what's really important about that is when you come to the ACCHL playoffs, there's 4 game slots on that Friday. It means you're not playing in that late game slot. So last year we were at 10 p.m., came back against Rowan, who had well over 24 hours rest.
Yeah.
And we were on short rest. And, we got out into a lead, and halfway through we ran out of gas. So that was a real goal this year, to make sure we were in a top 3 seed to be able to have one of the afternoon slots.
Yeah, those evening games would not be for me. That seems tough. And then we got into the Cup renaming for the Governor's Cup, which generated a lot of buzz in Raleigh for not even just the Ice Pack.
Yeah, that was exciting. That was, Governor Cooper is, what does Joe Ovius call it? The state's first fan, or the first fan of hockey.
He is.
And, people that might not know this, he was a season ticket holder. He was in the building when the Canes won the Cup. Yeah. He's a UNC guy, so we try not to hold that against him because he's been really supportive of the Governor's Cup and of hockey in North Carolina. Put politics aside, we're all hockey fans.
Yes.
And, if we have someone in that chair that is going to support hockey, that's good for the game.
Yeah.
And certainly he supports it. So it was an honor to have him come in, rename the cup for him, and it was a fun day. We got him holding up an NC State jersey with it, which was a lot of fun, and he in good nature with it too. So no, that was a great day.
Yeah.
And, looking forward to the Governor's Cup, which I'm sure we'll get to in
Yeah.
about a week and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you for the Canes and Shane Willis and Mike Sunheim for having us over there, and obviously for the Governor for coming, and he was coming as well.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun to be there. Do you think this new name will kind of bring some identity to this tournament night, whatever you want to call it?
I think I think in some ways the Governor's Cup was searching for a little bit of identity and seriousness of it. And I think two things. I never want to lose to UNC, ever. Big picture wise, I think we had won. I don't care if we're playing jacks, right? I think we had won 5 or 6 in a row to start it off, and they won that first one, and they've won 2 in a row, right? It's tough, how much of a rivalry were the Yankees and Red Sox when the Yankees were up 27 World Series to nothing over 85 years, right? So. That ability there, I think it gave it a little bit more legitimacy to it, and I think this takes it up a level of the naming of it, right? Now you're really playing on a name to honor someone and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, and what was that like for your captains to be there?
I think they took an appreciation of it, speaking with Zach Herman afterwards, and, Zach, and I will go political in a second, right? I think we really try to vilify people that at times don't deserve vilifying because they think a different way from us. And I don't know where Zach is politically. But afterwards, he was like, how can you, basically was like, you can disagree with him, but how can you not like that guy, right? And, how genuine he was about it. And I think that's just it. When you get out and meet people, I think that was a great takeaway for him too.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's very cool that someone of Roy Cooper's nature could still be a hockey fan.
Absolutely.
This is very cool. And, also worth mentioning, so that night, there was a new guy on the team, and I wanted to talk about him a little bit because
Eric Dahlin, yeah.
Yeah, it's not every day we see a new face.
Yeah, so Eric, first of all, it's a really cool story. So he grew up with Holden Kaufman and Dylan Christie playing together. And actually, there's a picture of the three of them when they were little kids in Stall.
We're gonna have to get that up here.
So we'll get to that. Yeah. So you can find it with Stall T-shirts, and then actually they got Eric Stall to sign the picture at the alumni game, which we'll get into.
Yes.
But yeah, so grew up playing with them, and he, he played locally for the Golden Bears, but he'd gone off to play in Sweden for a couple of years. Family is Swedish. And so he was back playing in the Central Canadian Hockey League. Really good junior league up in Canada. Brockville, it's actually Andrew Thronson played there.
Okay, yeah.
Brockville's not Raleigh. No offense to good people of Brockville, it's not Raleigh.
I don't know if they're watching, but.
And I think, if we have a viewer in Brockville, I'll be really impressed. And, but, so he was planning on applying and hopefully coming next year. So in September, we lost Nick Labrizzi for the year, Cade Cox for the year. So 2 key defensemen for the year. So I happen to have his father as a ref in our U12 girls game.
Oh, stop it.
And up in Hillsborough. And I actually didn't know that he was Eric's father, but our assistant for that team had been, lived up there and knew and kind of
Small world, hockey world.
Yeah, we were talking about the team, and I had just spoken with Eric the day before or the week before about coming to state and him getting his application in. Well, he, I jokingly said to him, he goes, I could use him right now with all the injuries we had. I think we can get him second semester. And, he kind of looked at me and he goes, I actually think you can. So with that, we made it work.
Yeah.
So he came in second semester. He's a terrific player, already slots in as a top 4D, great skater, brings a physical element, good passer, and not only that, right? He's a freshman too.
Yeah.
So, and he's one less kid I have to recruit to come in for next year, right? It's like you get him in, you don't have to worry about something going. Yeah.
You're done.
So, really appreciative of having him coming in, and he's going to be a great help down the stretch because we came back to this year. Tate Sawden had broken his foot over break. He's starting to work his way back. Alex James, had a medical procedure, so he's out. So if you think about our D to start the year, right? No Cade Cox, no Cade McConaughey, no Labreezy, gone for the year, right? Then you had Tate out at the start, and then you had Alex James. We'll have Tate back in full this weekend. He played a little bit last weekend, and we'll get James back probably by the playoffs. But having Eric come in is huge because there's that point that we're running out of bodies. So we added Jonathan. Timing. Yeah, we added Jonathan Corwin too, who late in the semester who didn't start the year with us. So we've had to re-scramble and rebuild that blue line, and Eric is a great part of that, and Jonathan's done a great job as well.
Yeah.
And other guys have had to grow up, like Lapani, Reglars, and Tate Sodden. They've done a great job of stepping up.
That's great. Well, we're going to head to commercial break, and we'll be right back in a minute.
We build it, you demolish it. The legendary home wrecker burrito. Come build yours today with 20 plus fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Hi, welcome back. So, Coach, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, and now I really want to dive into it, the alumni game.
Yeah, first before we even dive fully into it, a guy that always, it's funny, when we played in the outdoor game at Carter Finley, not that the university wasn't supportive, but people are like, oh, how did you get it done through the university? It's like, it's Shane Willis.
Yeah.
Like Shane Willis from the Canes.
He's great.
He got us
in the hockey community in general.
Yes,
He's great.
He made sure we were out on that outdoor ice. And in September, not September, I want to say October, Shane had reached out to me and said, I can't really go into detail, but, what are you doing the 13th? I looked at the schedule.
Might be happening.
I kind of looked at the schedule. I was like, oh, that's all weekend. And I knew, like, these alumni games are kind of customary for when someone retires their jersey. Yeah. And then he told me, hey, this is likely. Couldn't tell the team just yet. And then we actually had a team meeting scheduled, and then they put it out public like hours before. It was just a cool, fun experience. I think a once-in-a-lifetime experience for our players. Even for me, when I think about that 06 Canes team, even though I wasn't living here yet, just so many great character-type players on that team.
Yeah.
And then as I learned once we played them, just characters like Mike Commodore.
And how cool is that to get to see?
Yeah, it was, I think the best part about the game, and then we can get into the last 2 minutes, up until the 2-minute mark, was that it was almost a shared experience on the ice between the two teams. You had Aaron Ward who'd coached some of the players. You had Brenda Moore, who obviously knows some of our guys. You have Rice, who actually coaches at UNC, but actually coached a lot of our guys in AAA.
Yeah.
You had George in their goal, who also played for NC State. So you had actually, for me personally, you had Brett Hedekin, who I actually had done a summer skate with back in 1996 up in Minnesota. So you had all this, it was just a cool experience. And then, the game itself, 8,600 people, a lot of atmosphere. As Derek Steppens said in a conversation I had with him, who, by the way, just retired. So almost like you have a guy out there who still could be in the league. But anyway.
Not fair.
Now I think he's a serial alumni game player, although he hasn't played for many teams. He said to me, he goes, I played in the Rangers game this weekend. He goes, this was a lot more fun because when you do, a lot of teams, they'll do alumni and alumni, right? And so it's like, oh, yay, that person scored. But this one, like, rooting interest came into
That's
it.
a really great
so
perspective.
So the crowd got more into it.
Yeah.
And, if it's Rangers, Canes, a Canes team was going to win. But, they got out to that big lead, and then we had the comeback. And it just created for a great atmosphere in there. But it was a lot of fun. Again, it was a shared experience. And then obviously the game took a couple turns along the way. I don't know how much you want to talk about that.
Yeah, it did.
So they scored first, and then we scored. And then they got pretty serious, and then, they kind of took a lead. Then they took the foot off the gas, and then we came back.
Yeah.
And then they took a 6-3 lead in the third, and they kind of took the foot off the gas, and we came back again. And it was a little bit feeling like, okay, the Harlem Globetrotters, and we're the Washington Nat.
Right.
You know, if you watch that, you know, the Globetrotters would sometimes pull the pants down.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen out there.
They weren't doing
But, you know, like, we were getting tripped all night, and it's fine. Like, we were getting tripped all night and stuff like that, and every penalty was supposed to be a penalty shot. So, you know, it's funny, we're down 6-5 with about a minute 30 left, and Dan Prasma, he just takes up off the ice, and he's flying. And and Eric Stahl just freaking tosses him right in the middle, you know, pitchforks him, sends him flying cartwheel. Obvious penalty, and I think because it really did take a scoring opportunity, the ref finally called a penalty.
Okay, yeah.
And any penalty is a penalty shot, which Stahl didn't know. I knew. So then
He's like, I wouldn't have done that.
yeah. So then I don't know. Prasma goes down, buries, and now it's 6-6.
Yeah.
There's like a minute left. And Jake Gifford, right, like A Star is Born. Gifford had already had 2 goals on the night, you know, kind of gets one backdoor from Herman. Now we're up with 20 seconds left. Couple funny things from that game is, you know, Wade Minter was telling me that the production team on the, you know, on the headsets when we scored was like, oh no, that wasn't supposed to happen. So
That wasn't scripted.
No, so it was not scripted at all out there. So, but we, so then I'll just never forget, you know, that last center ice face-off with 20 seconds left, and they have Brindamore, and they have Stahl, and they have Hedeken, and they have Whitney, and they had, you know, basically, you know, they had Gleason. Trying to think who else, and Williams were out there, goalie pulled. And I'll never forget this. I'm looking at this, and I'm saying to myself, and that group was in shape. There was definitely, all due respect to the Canes, there was a group that was in shape, and a group that was a shape. So you know, they're lined up out there. And those guys, everyone's great, but so they're lined up out there. And I just remember thinking to myself, there was a kind of a serious look in their face in that moment, like, oh, we actually really want to tie this up. These kids just didn't do this. But what went through my head was like, in that building, in the playoffs, in a 6-on-5 situation, in 06, that's literally the unit that would have been out there. I mean, just so you know, you kind of take a step back in time, and then you're looking across, and it's our ice pack jerseys, right? Like, and that's just really cool, regardless of what happened, right? Like, we've been trying to build this for a long time, to get this on the stage, and we take a lot of pride in, right? You've seen some of the teams we play. They might come out without a name bar or this or that. Like, you know, when we get out, you know, that intentionality to detail. So when we're there, we look like we should be there, and, you know, we played like we should be there that night. And it was a lot of fun, and, you know, obviously we held them
and
off.
great
And
experience for the fans, too. I mean, a lot of these people, these were some of their favorite people
Absolutely.
who came and played, and they haven't seen them play in forever.
Yeah, and, you know, a great experience for the fans. Great, and I think we probably picked up some new fans that night.
Definitely.
There were definitely a couple of Canes podcasts, and, you know, I'm not keeping notes, but said we were going to lose 9-1. We know which ones you are. So anyway, but and then the Frigid Sound of the South was there to sort of have the band, and I think a lot of people loved the band there that night. What was really funny at the end of the game was like, what's the end of the game script now? Because I do think they had like a storm surge or something planned.
Probably.
But then it reverted back to like, hey, Lenovo is the home of the pack up there too, right? Like so. So then it went into the alma mater, and the fight song alma mater and Wagon Wheel suddenly became an NCAA ending. So it was great experience, and you know, again, thank you for the Canes for hosting us. Thank you for Shane Willis to put it together, and thanks for the players who were just really cool about the experience. But you know, if there's one image that's going to stay with me, and I think if post-production, if you can pull this picture up, there's a picture of Holden Kaufman battling in front of the net with Rod Brindamore.
Yeah.
And Holden has a huge smile on his face. And they're engaged physically, right? It's in front of the net, and Brindamore has as much of a smile as he gets, right?
Yes.
So, you know, kind of the...
Nothing.
No, there was a smile there. And it's just like you have this moment, right? Like, here's Holden, you know, he's smiling. Here's Rod. He's, you know, smiling, kind of enjoying this moment as they battle in front of the net.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, that image is kind of what's burned in my mind as
I want to see that picture.
Yeah,
it's
great.
wonderful.
It's up on socials.
Of course.
So.
No, wonderful experience for the team, the older players. It's just a great.
Yeah, it was a great
hockey
and
experience.
And that's part of the reason why you come to a university like NC State. You know, we're so part of this community, the hockey community, Lenovo. You know, those guys having that experience, you're not going to get that. As Patrick Eaves, who played for Boston College, said, I went to BC. We never even had experience like this. I didn't play against, Ray Bork and those guys when I was in college, my heroes growing up. So
It's a different experience. Yeah, no, for sure. And then since then, there was 2 games which have been against Liberty. I hate to come off such a high note and then go into those games. We got to talk about them. Yeah.
Liberty, really good rival, 2 games, one we lost in a shootout. And I think there's 3 things about this weekend. We are a team, but you also want to recognize individual greatness when it happens.
Yeah.
And I think this weekend, we let points get away from us, particularly the Friday night game when we were up 3-0. But we really spoiled greatness. 2 individual performances that, go as a footnote. Addison Lawrence on Thursday night was spectacular, 54 saves. We probably didn't actually really have our best game.
Yeah.
Probably didn't, even though we're up 2-0, probably didn't really deserve to win that game on the road with how many shots we gave up. You could make an argument about some of the officiating in the majors and some of our undisciplined stuff. The next night, we were good enough to win that game, and we were good enough to win that game in regulation. 5-on-5, we had actually outshot them. But Zach Herman had 3 goals, and we got up 2-0 by him. The assist on the play that Gifford put us up 3-0. When they came back to tie it 3-3, Herman with a snipe again to make it 4-3. And by the way, he had the 2 goals the night before, so 5 goals in 2 games against Liberty. That's an all-time performance against them. Up there we got guys like Solomon and Riley Johnson. We really let 2 special performances go for naught. You can say, oh yeah, well, he picked up standings. I don't care. Those were chances to win both of those games, and definitely the one on Friday night.
Yeah, it's clear the competition is there. It's just
and we need to be more disciplined, right? We went through last night on video, and video doesn't lie. When you watch yourself taking some of the penalties you took and knowing that they hurt the team, how do you respond to that now?
Yeah. Well, now as we shift to kind of the focus for the remainder of the season, there's been some great areas, obviously, as we've talked about. There's also been some areas of growth. What are you guys looking to do as you guys kind of finish out the next month or so?
You talk about growth. We are a super young team.
Yes, for sure.
So take Zach Robinson out, who's battling through a concussion, and take Alex James out.
Yeah.
That's only 3. If Addison Lawrence is playing, Addison, Frosch, Emery Oliver, and Thomas McEnany are the only graduating players in the lineup. So that's 4.
Yeah.
If Isaac's playing, it's really 3, right? So we are a young team. We have a great fan, Kevin Heyer, who some people probably know, shot me a text. He goes, 7 of our 8 leading scorers are freshmen or sophomores. And I'm like, actually, it's 8 of 8 in some ways, because Herman is on a 5-year change, kind of a double major program. So we're really young in that scoring department. And what I'm looking forward to the rest of the year is seeing how these guys have grown up, because we have had guys like Govea, who's out for the year, right, who's supposed to play some of those minutes. Labrizzi, as I mentioned, some of these other guys that have forced these younger guys to carry big minutes. Jake Gifford played on the top line this weekend. Jake Gifford's a great scorer. He's over a point-a-game guy. 8,600 people know how good Jake Gifford is from the alumni game.
Yeah,
Jake Gifford wasn't supposed to be on the top line this weekend, but injuries are making guys grow up. And that's what I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, to see how grown up they are.
I think that says a lot about the team, too, that, as those injuries happen, you kind of have that sweet spot. Just move people around.
Yeah, we do. And, we built a lot of depth coming into this year. What's crazy to me is we used to only carry 8 defensemen. We took 10. But now we've added Corwin and Dolan. So we've actually used 12 this year. But, we knew we were going to have more depth than we've ever had before. I just would have preferred not to have tested it this much. But it's where we are, and, guys have been stepping up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and the fans are looking forward to it.
Yeah, better get. We only have 2 home games left at Invisalign. Let's get out. Virginia Tech is a huge game Friday night. Huge game. And then we have our senior night versus UNC the following Friday.
Okay.
And then obviously the Governor's Cup game.
Yeah, which, well, as always, great game.
Yeah, but coaching me, we got to worry about Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
They're a really good team. They've only lost 3 games this year, one of which is to us, UNCW and Penn State. So it's a big game in the standings, too, to try and get up a 1 or 2 seed. within the playoffs coming up. So it's a huge pair of games this weekend.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Coach, thanks for talking to me
Delaney,
today.
thank you as always.
I'm your host, Delaney Kearns, and we'll see you next time.
Go Pack.
We're getting you set for tonight's game here at PNC Arena, the Governor's Cup. A heated rivalry as always, but have not lost playing a game in this arena. And Healy, he's excited, you know, it's a big matchup. He was incredibly impressed by the team's performance on the road at Cincinnati, and they're looking to finish the semester off with a bang.
Championship caliber teams, though, never let teams creep in. They never take their foot off the gas.
We build it, you demolish it. The legendary Homewrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20 plus fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.